I'm in the mood for a shrimp boil, so that's what we're gonna be making today. I'm just using shrimp, some potatoes, some corn, and I'm gonna smother it in a delicious garlic butter sauce. Let me show you how I make it. So your first step is gonna always be to gather all your ingredients. I am using some shrimp. I wanted jumbo shrimp, but I'm using large white shrimp. Yeah. I always buy frozen shrimp. I read somewhere that whenever they get shrimp off the boat, they immediately freeze it. So your best bet is to always buy shrimp that is already frozen. What I also try to do is I make sure that I look at the ingredients on the back of a bag of shrimp, and if it only says shrimp, that is my preferred shrimp. If it has other ingredients, I won't say I won't use it, but it's not gonna be as, I think, tasty in my opinion. The thing about this recipe is you can scale it up, you can add more shrimp, less shrimp, and you could add other seafood, but this was the last bag of shrimp I found at the store. I like to defrost my shrimp by putting it in a bowl of cold water and letting it sit for like 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm gonna do that while I prepare my other ingredients. I'm using baby red potatoes in this recipe, and I am gonna have them. That's just because my family likes them halved. So I'm gonna now prep my corn. So first you peel it, and I don't know, when I think of boils, I love a boil that has some corn in it. You don't have to have corn in your boil, but especially for summer, you get that fresh corn. Now, you could also use frozen corn. You don't have to use fresh corn, and actually frozen corn is probably easier because it usually is sweeter and it's already cut for you, but you know, whatever. It's summer and I found this. So I rinsed off the silk, and the way that I cut heads of corn into smaller pieces, because I want this to be in like fourths, is I take my big machete knife and I kind of just give it like a little bit of a head start into it. And then I make sure I have a sturdy cut board and I just kind of whap it. And I'm also gonna finely chop an onion. I like onion in this butter sauce recipe. That this recipe was inspired and given to me by my Aunt Sib. She called it a low country boil, which it definitely is like a low country boil. But for hers, she cooked her seafood in this delicious like butter sauce. And when I asked her about it, you know how it is when you ask for recipes. She gave me a general way to how to do it, and that's pretty much the way I do my boils now. I'm also gonna use some garlic. Choppy, choppy, chop. I'll also be using some parsley in my boil. Fresh parsley. I will say I don't like to sub fresh parsley with dry parsley. Parsley is one of those herbs that if it's not fresh, the dried one, I mean, you can use it for color, but it's just not gonna taste as prominent. I'm also gonna slice a lemon. My shrimp is defrosted, and I'm gonna show you how I prep my shrimp before I get started. So I really like shrimp, so I always have a shrimp deveiner to prep my shrimp. And I always, like I said, I always buy frozen shrimp, but I do like to buy the shrimp that has the shell on. If I am removing the shrimp from the shell, then I save that for later. For deveining my shrimp, I like to get a little bit of a paper towel to put the little shrimp vein on. And then I grab a whole shrimp, take my little deveiner tool. And you could use a paring knife for this. And then I kind of go in at the head and I just go through. And if you wanted to remove the shell, that makes it super easy. But what I like about this is it basically, this one doesn't have one of those little veins, but if it did, I would be able to remove it super easy. A little bit of vein stuff. See, I'm just gonna pull that out. Ooh, that's a lot. See how much easier that was? Yay. And so I use that paper towel to kind of put that vein thing on it and just get rid of that. So I'm gonna boil these potatoes for about 10 to 12 minutes until they're fork tender. Potatoes are boiling. I'm gonna go ahead and build my butter sauce. So I'm setting a skillet over medium heat, and I'm going to melt the butter in that skillet. Melt, 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 melt. Melt, melt. And I choose medium heat because I don't want my butter to brown. I just want it to melt before I add my onions and my garlic. All right, so my butter is melted. I'm gonna add my onions, and I'm gonna sweat these pretty much, or saute it, whatever, But I'm gonna allow these to cook until they're softened. It should take about 4 minutes. All right, so my potatoes have been boiling for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and drop in this corn. Be very careful. And I want that to cook for about 4 minutes just to give these vegetables a head start before I add everything to my boil pan. As you can see, my onions have been cooking in that butter. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic, and I'm just gonna cook this for like about a minute in there. Now I'm going to sprinkle in some Cajun seafood seasoning. I'm using Old Bay, baby. And I'm using some cayenne pepper. And I'm just gonna stir this for like a few seconds. That carries flavor. So I do like to season the butter before I add anything else with a little bit of this. And we're just sauteing it just to toast those spices for a quick second. Pour in some full fat heavy cream. And this is your butter sauce right here. I'm not even gonna let that cook on the stove. I just turned my heat off because I'm gonna let that cook on my boil when I put it in the oven. The next thing I'm gonna do for this sauce, I'm actually gonna put in some fresh parsley in here before I pour it onto my rest of my sauce. I have tested one of these tomatoes. As soon as I can stick a fork kind of somewhat in it, it's time to come out. So I'm gonna take these out. Corn as well. And I'm gonna put it in my bake pan. So I've got my potatoes and my corn in my thing. I'm gonna just basically dump the remaining, I hate saying the word dump, but I'm gonna pour my remaining ingredients on top of that. So I've got all this shrimp I'm just gonna add, as well as I've got andouille sausage that's been sliced. Just make sure you're adding that in there. I'm also gonna add my lemon slices to that as well. Stir all this up in this boil pan. Just give it a whirl. Grab your sauce, pour it over your stuff. Your shrimp and your potatoes, everything in that foil pan. Right there. Oh, it's hot. Ooh. Hold on. Yes, sir. We are done. Our deveined shrimp. Okay guys, that's it. That's how you make an easy peasy shrimp boil. You can also add other seafood to it, make it your own, enjoy it. Until the next time,